morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on this panel to listen to us, despite the many other things happening here at the Congress Center. I'm going to introduce our panel very briefly, and then I'll get into the crux of the topic today. Going from this side, DPM Agniti from Thailand, Mr. Masato, the president of ADB, Tulsi Naidu from Zurich Insurance, and Darren Tang, the Director General of WIPO. We have another minister, Mutia, coming very soon, and she'll join us as soon as she can. Firstly, I also like to introduce myself. I'm Jamie Ho, editor of the Straits Times. Thank you for having me here, my colleagues at the forum. And I must congratulate them on framing the question ahead of us today. Is ASEAN moving fast enough? And obviously, embedded in that question is a little suggestion, quite mischievous, but quite good, that ASEAN may not be moving fast enough. But maybe the panel here will help address that question. So I'll start with DPM Agniti, if you may. From your perspective, both Thailand and as a key member of ASEAN, run us through your thoughts in terms of your own aspirations for ASEAN and Thailand. Is it moving fast enough? Where is it moving fast enough, and where can it do better?
Yeah, I think to answer your questions, whether we are moving fast enough, depending on how we harness the mega shift that we have seen during the past 3 days. I think we clearly see 3 messages. The first mega shift is new geopolitics, new world order. The multilateralism is breaking down. So regionalism, I think, will be more important. The second one is the AI transformations. We have seen AI moving fast enough. How we can make AI transformations more inclusive and more governance so that we can protect low-income people. And the third one about the climate change and clean economies. We have seen some countries retract from the commitment, but most of the countries, I believe, still believe in the commitment for carbon neutrality. How we can address it, how ASEAN harness these mega shifts, that will be important. So in my opinion, the first one, new world order, new geopolitics, I think it will be very important for ASEAN to work together because multilateral system is declining. You can see that the WTO is declining, so regionalisms, intra-regional trade. After AEC, ASEAN Economic Communities will be stronger and will be more important if we can harness that benefit. So that will be very important. I have seen a lot of investors during the past 3 days. What I can feel is that they consider ASEAN as a safer place for trade and investment because we can trade to many countries. We are very neutral in terms of trade and investment, but we need to move closer. We have to work closer. That's very important. If we can work together, if we can work closer based on the foundations that we have, like intra-regional trade, we can be stronger and use ASEAN as a springboard to grow to many other regions, not just trade among each other. That will be important message to handle and to harness the first shift of New World Order. The second one, which I would like to focus on, is the digital infrastructures will be very important to harness the AI transformations in many dimensions. I think in ASEAN, if we want to move faster than what we expect, we need to lay down foundations. We already have foundations for road networks, transportation networks, power networks, but not digital networks. So we need to focus more on laying down foundations for digital infrastructures. I would like to highlight on these areas because we are still lagging behind. I think on digital infrastructures, there are 3 layers. The first layer is the foundations we need to share foundations for digital ID, for digital signatures. If we don't share digital ID, digital signatures, we cannot take the benefit of growing AI and growing digital transformations. So we need to have foundation for that. That's the first layer. The second layer is the share framework, how we can have data and digital governance. We have to work together how we have application programming interface so that we can share information among ASEANs. We cannot do it on our own if we want to grow faster. We have to work together. That's the second layer. And the third layer is related to share service. I think there will be 3 capital S for digital infrastructures. Share foundations, digital ID, share foundations for digital payment. We have like with Singapore's Prompt Pay and Pay Now. We have to expand that to all ASEANs so that finance can facilitate trade and digitals. Second S, I repeat it again, share infrastructures and framework for digital and data governance. Lastly, on share services, which will be very important. Let's imagine if we have share service, like share for health record, definitely based on the second layers to have foundations for data governance. We may have people in Timor-Leste who can use the better medical service in Thailand or in Singapore on telehealth. That will make digital more inclusive. We can have share logistic and share e-commerce. SME in Thailand, SMEs in Vietnam, SME in Malaysia can share service. Now we have the platform from outside ASEAN. All benefits go to other countries outside ASEAN. How can we make that share services for ASEAN e-commerce, share system, share payments, so that small SME in Thailand can enter the markets for Indonesia? Similarly, we have to open the markets for Indonesians who would like to buy Thai products. So that's the ways that we will grow together. And we have a number of shared service architects. We have better agricultural technologies in Singapore. We have better architects in Thailand. We are very good in pet foods. You are very good in, other types of foods. We can share so that we can grow together. On the last part about the mega shift on the green economies, even though what I said, some countries are retracting from commitments for carbon neutralities and net zeros, but most countries in the world still commit to it. So there's a lot of opportunities for green transitions and green economies. If we can work together, ASEAN power grid for clean energies, like what we have done together. We get hydro power from Laos to Thailand, to Malaysia, to Singapore. Then people in ASEAN can get clean energies for their productions and their services, and it's cheaper. So that's the way to work together. More importantly, how we can make clean transitions to the low-income people. If we develop only ASEAN power grid for clean energies for large business, people will not change. We have to go deep down to people. That's why in Thailand we have the sandbox called Salamuri model, where public, government, private sectors, like in Thailand, they develop green cement from SCGs. Communities, like people on the ground, setting solar and cell power, clean power to businesses. They earn income and they get carbon credit. They earn income so they can change behavior. We need to make green transitions going down to people, for ASEAN people. That will make green transition more inclusive. That's the way I look at how we can grow faster.
Thank you very much, DPM. You must have seen some of my notes because I'm glad you raised some of the topics that I was going to make sure I asked you at the end of this panel. But you raised many good points, and as I said, and let me reiterate as well, not only has you raised questions in my head for the floor, if you do have questions, I do hope to set aside as much time as possible at the end for them to address questions. Masato-san, I'm going to turn to you now to react to the DPM, but also I know you are a very firm fan of ASEAN, so please give us your perspective firstly on whether we are moving fast enough or not. And DPM Agniti raised many issues about digital transformation, and I know you have a view on digital transformation, AI and innovation. Tell us your view on that and how ADB finds its way to help ASEAN along the way.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity for me to share my humble thoughts on that. So probably I will start with a rather general observation, followed by some comments on a great presentation.
Thank you.
The ASEAN countries has been the world's most trade-driven, trade-dependent region. The trade has been the cornerstone of growth, industrialization, and integration into the global economy. Actually, the global value chain has created 75 million jobs in the region. And now, as you mentioned, this collapse of the international order or the heightened geopolitical tension and more economically the fragmented supply chain and higher and more certain tariffs has posed a problem, obviously, the ASEAN's business model of trade. At the moment, ASEAN countries has shown some of the resilience thanks to their domestic consumption and investment, and also the regional collaboration, connectivity. But this enormous transformation in the global landscape is posing definitely the unprecedented challenges to ASEAN countries. Yes, this is really once in centuries the big industrial revolution which affects the whole regime of the human society. But at least I'm in the multilateral organization, so this is probably first in at least since the 1944 or 1945, tremendous change. But I believe this is a great opportunity for ASEAN. The uncertainty, risk is also the great opportunities. So we've got to turn these challenges into the opportunities for ASEAN to be stronger. This is what I told to all of the leaders of ASEAN, and also I believe they agreed. And the ADB is committed to support this transition. Three things, among others. One is, of course, we need to create the more robust domestic economy by deregulation or the quality infrastructure, strengthening the human capital through the education and vocational training. You mentioned the AI. Definitely, we need to upgrade. And most importantly, the further strengthening regional connectivity and cooperation. There are lots of opportunities. And ADB can support this great enterprise as their long-term financier and the mobilizer of the private capital and the honest broker or trusted partner to create the platform for the regional integration, which I will refer to APG, you rightly suggested. There are many things we can do. And responding to your presentations, all of them are quite relevant from my perspective. Thank you for raising this. So geopolitical, of course, this is the really most annoying things. And I believe, as you know, the regional connectivity and more diversification of your industry and trade partners and supply chain will be the best protection against these external shocks. And, you know, of course, it is good for climate also, but I believe APG, ASEAN Power Grid, is really transformational. You know, supplying to the 680 million people the sustainable, stable, affordable energy. It is really, you know, necessity for the region to survive and prosper. It needs $100 billion for 20 years from our calculation, and ADB is already, you know, ready to commit up to the $10 billion for a decade. But you know, not just the financial, you know, challenges, but we need the, you know, more partnership amongst you know, the actors, and we have a very good made a great progress last fall. You know, the new MOU is really, you know, already shifting from their ad hoc transaction, bilateral transaction, to the multilateral platform, which is a really great answer, because it is really complicated projects, you know, very much complicated, including some, you know, even diplomatic issue, not only the technological harmonization is, but again, ADB can support your initiative, you know, as honest broker and technological advisor and financial mobilizer. So we, and if we succeed in APG, we can demonstrate how we can transform this, you know, international community, human society, when, you know, the greater ambition, institutions, policies, the finance move together. So I'm very much excited. And as for AI, this is another headway and opportunities. This is a great opportunity for the productivity growth and the social inclusion. But at the same time, this is a great risk for the society. You know, potential, you know, more inequality and cybersecurity issues. There are many things, and I promised the 2026 ASEAN chair, the President Marcos Jr. of the Philippines, with my full support to ASEAN chair. But you know, he, you know, emphasized the issues of AI. You know, even to me, it is not so easy. But for instance, their job replacement is really a headache. My home country, Japan, or Korea, China, are facing the, you know, the aging and decreasing. But for the Philippines, Indonesia, and many countries in ASEAN are embracing the demographic dividend. But if you can't give the young population the good job, probably it is not only you know, but for ethical reason, but it is, creates a huge, you know, social instability. Already we've seen in the, you know, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Nepal and all over the world, including almost all of the advanced countries, now facing the social instability and the polarization. This is really difficult, and to some extent, this is the employment problems, and particularly for the middle class. So we are very much conscious about this risk, and ADB is really committed to help you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Masato-san. I'm going to take 30 seconds to recap, just for Minister Miyutia, who's just joined us. Thank you very much. Right on time. We had started with the premise of questioning whether ASEAN can move faster in various areas, and the DPM gave us a very good recap of the three main areas that he thought that ASEAN could do better on. The second area that he mentioned was on digital development, digital infrastructure, AI, innovation, that he thought ASEAN could do more on. So perfect for you to jump in as well, to give us your perspective as Minister for Communication and Digital Affairs, how you see ASEAN's current pace in terms of its transformation on the digital space of things, and where you see Indonesia playing a role. Obviously, Indonesia has a very big role to play in this space, but give us your perspective.
Yes, well, thank you, Jamie. Sorry for the delay. And when asked whether ASEAN is moving fast enough, then I think we first have to decide on how do you categorize fast. Are you looking at the adoption rate of technology or AI? Are you looking at the digital economy magnitudes? Or for us in Indonesia and I think most part of ASEAN, really also look at fastness with looking at how fast we can diffuse the technology, especially to our 700 million population. So Indonesia alone is 280 million, comprised of 17,000 more islands, and that's already a big challenge. How to diffuse, how to make it more available for everyone. So I think inclusivity is also an important part when talking about fastness and readiness. And also, Mr. President of ADB just mentioned one thing that is also very important. How fast can we teach, can we literate our people, especially the young ones? Again, in ASEAN, we are a region in which demographic bonus is quite huge. And of course, a bonus is only a bonus when they are skilled. So again, I think we really look at that. We know that we have to go faster, but at the same time, how do we regulate is also one thing that we need to consider when speaking about fastness or not. And that's why ASEAN is finalizing on our DEFA, which is the digital economic framework for ASEAN. And we believe that this can bring us faster. It will not only serve as a trade agreement between ASEAN countries, but it will serve also as operating system in which interoperability between ASEAN countries will be much higher. For example, in Indonesia, the more common example that can be also experienced by our neighbors is our digital payment, which is KRIS. It's already interoperable within Thailand, Malaysia, and other countries. And likewise, the digital payment from other ASEAN countries. So I think by uniting, by aligning, principles, regulations, we can get ASEAN to be more, competitive to other parts of the world.
Thank you very much. Darren, I know you're one of the biggest champions for ASEAN from your perch at WIPO. I mean, the comments that we've heard from the DPM and the minister, obviously the whole point of it is to raise challenges that we have to face as ASEAN going forward. But you also sit in a different place in that you have first sight of the kind of innovations and what already ASEAN has achieved and has the potential to do even better on. So tell us what you see from WIPO and really where the gaps may be. But at the same time, I'm sure you see a lot more that the common man may not see in terms of how fast we are already going.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Let me start with a happy confession. I'm taking care of 194 member states as the head of a UN agency. WIPO is a UN agency for intellectual property, innovation, and creativity. But I'm a Singaporean, so I'm a proud son of ASEAN. And so what I will share with you today comes from my experience, not just as WIPO DG, but also as a ASEAN national, and also in my past experience as a Singapore government official, working on ASEAN agreements, working on ASEAN matters as a trade negotiator. And let me start by saying that I think ASEAN is really at the forefront of a lot of the IP innovation developments. I know we ASEAN, and I say we ASEAN because I say, I'm proud to be ASEAN. We always want to be faster, and we always want to coordinate more. But I've really seen in the last few years a real transformation in the innovation landscape of ASEAN. Let me share with you some data to back that up. First, ASEAN, as an emerging economy region, has one of the highest numbers of unicorns in the world. I think the total ASEAN region is about 45 to 50 unicorns. And it's not easy to find in an emerging region, right, that number of unicorns. ASEAN's R&D expenditure has grown by an average of 8.5% compounded annual growth rate. And right now, ASEAN expenditure on R&D has reached $60 billion, so it's not small. ASEAN's creative economy is also beginning to take off because as ASEAN nationals and countries get more confident in their culture, they're beginning to export the culture overseas. DPM, Thai food is found everywhere. So congratulations, Thailand led the way on this. But we talk about movies and films. Indonesia, Jumbo, has become the top highest grossing ASEAN film. I think Jumbo now has grossed 10 million US dollars. Thailand has a collaboration with South Korea and of course it's a horror film because Thailand is the best at that. I think I forgot the name, but it's grossed about almost 10 million as well. And Malaysia's animated film called Mekamoto, 2 years ago won Best Anime, non-Japanese anime, right, at the International Anime Festival in Tokyo. So we're talking about a region that's no longer just about natural resources, about commodities, about tourism infrastructure, but also about entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, about the digital economy, about the creative economy. And that means that ASEAN IP filings are growing. Patent filings have grown by 70%. Trademark filings have grown by 110% in 10 years. Design filings have grown by 80%. So on all the metrics that WIPO measures, right, ASEAN economies and ASEAN's region as a whole is doing very well. And in fact, 6 of the 10 ASEAN countries, I think we have to add Timor-Leste quite soon, but 6 of the ASEAN countries are in the top 60 of WIPO's Global Innovation Index, where we rank the innovation performance of 140 countries. And Indonesia is one of the fastest risers, and Vietnam also is doing really well. So across the whole region, whether you're looking at the core ASEAN, the original members, but even those who have joined us, CLMV as we call them, everyone is doing well. And that means that, and why is this happening? It's because ASEAN member states, and I say this as someone who used to do trade policy, trade negotiations, historically, ASEAN member states have looked at intellectual property as something they have to do well to attract foreign investment so that they can be welcoming foreign IP into ASEAN. So ASEAN was a consumer of IP. ASEAN consumed foreign brands, consumed foreign technology, consumed foreign designs, consumed foreign content. But that's changing. ASEAN now sees IP as part of its growth and development journey. Why? Because ASEAN is becoming a place where ASEAN innovators are creating, they're inventing, they're innovating, they're daring to take the ideas and take it to the market. So one very concrete example of how our agenda with ASEAN at WIPO is very forward-looking is that 3 years ago in Semarang, when Indonesia was ASEAN chair, we signed an MOU with the ASEAN Secretariat. And the MOU is a very forward-looking MOU, not just dealing with IP protection, enforcement, and registration, which is a traditional IP agenda and the basic IP agenda, but focusing on very cutting-edge IP issues like IP commercialization, IP valuation, how to make use of IP as a financial asset so that IP can be brought to the bank and collateralized. And in fact, and then how is IP a business asset that helps both big ASEAN companies like Krung Thai Bank or CP Group or your RIAD Group or DBS, right, use IP, but even your SMEs and your startups. So a very inclusive vision of IP. So the focus in MOU is on the creative economy, the digital economy, small, medium enterprises and startups, as well as IP financing and valuation. And no other MOU do we have with any other regional platform has this sort of cutting-edge agenda. And in fact, we position our relationship with ASEAN, right, as a model for other regions, right, who want to go beyond IP protection, IP enforcement, and are looking at IP beyond the legal perspective and looking at IP from a development perspective, from a business perspective, economic, trade, finance perspective. And because of the energy that we have from ASEAN, and because of our strong bilateral relationship with ASEAN as well as the regional relationship, we've been implementing the MOU in a very energetic way. So in the last 3 years, we have trained 6,000 SMEs in ASEAN from all the countries. We are from courses that are more academic, but the revolution has been mentoring ASEAN entrepreneurs to use IP as part of their business journey. We are also developing piloting programs in Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore to use IP as collateral. I was just meeting Kun Payo in Krung Thai Bank last year when I visited Bangkok, and we are seeing how we can help Krung Thai Bank to accept IP as collateral so that it can give loans to Thai SMEs. We just launched a similar initiative in Malaysia. Indonesia just passed a Regulation 6, where as part of your microfinancing initiatives, you're going to accept IP as collateral, which is not common in the world, by the way. So I'm talking about practices which are really, really quite exciting, things which are no longer on paper as theory, but things which are practicing and piloting in the ASEAN region. Looking ahead, I think, as DPM has said of Thailand, with the global political situation, regional platforms will become even more important. So WIPO is going to work even more closely with ASEAN Secretariat, with the ASEAN Working Group on IP Cooperation, which is a gathering of all the ASEAN IP stakeholders, to drive this even deeper. We are right now working to develop the ASEAN IP Action Plan, 2026 to 2030, and then there's a Vision 2046, which Malaysia was pushing last year. And the vision, right, really is to put IP, innovation, and creativity at the heart of ASEAN. And I'm confident with relative peace as a region, with the economic vibrancy. Minister, you mentioned 700 million people, but not 700 million people who are just passive, but entrepreneurs, creators, innovators, with a diversity as our strength. I think ASEAN will continue to do. And let me just finish by sharing an anecdote. When I was a Singapore official, I was involved in the ASEAN-EU FTA. This was in 2006 or 2007, around that time. Vietnam was chairing it. And I remember that we had a lot of internal discussions. Should ASEAN follow the EU model of more integrated, of having a centralized set of rules and regulations? And we decided that maybe for ASEAN, as a much more diverse region, it's better to have a looser arrangement. And I think that's worked out very well for us, because I think we're in a very different place from where we were 15 years ago. If you look at the European system right now, their method of integration also poses challenges, new types of challenges. I hope they will overcome those challenges. But I think that for ASEAN, right, our diversity is our strength. We are all very different as ASEAN member states. But I think the way we work together, which gives a lot more space, interoperability rather than forcing harmonization, can also be a source of strength for us. So I just want to share some good news. So as one of my mentors said, fast is slow and slow is fast. I'll leave you to figure out what that means, but thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Darren. I think this is a perfect segue, because before I turn over the floor for questions, and I'm sure there will be, we've heard quite an amazingly diverse set of views here, Tulsi. So you will add to it from your private sector perspective, sitting from the perch of Zurich Insurance. Tell us what your view is of ASEAN, and where do you stand when you hear this range of views?
First of all, thank you for the range of comments, and I'm delighted to present the private sector perspective on this. And maybe I make my comments in three parts. One, just to give you a sense of context of where I come from and the perspective we bring. Second, how we think about ASEAN as an operator and as an investor in ASEAN. And third, this question about growth, and are we going fast enough, and the issues around that. If I give you a bit of context about where we come from as a group, we're one of the world's largest insurance groups. We operate in 200 countries, 80 billion in premiums across the world. What we do, we're in the business of taking risk. We're in the business of creating resilience, whether that is in people's lives, whether it's in families' lives, whether it's for small businesses, large businesses, and therefore the economy as a whole. We create the capacity for people to have the confidence to invest. We are a Swiss business that started in Europe, is now 60% an American business, and has an increasing focus and growth in Asia and Latin America. And so we have tracked the progress of the world economy over the last 150 years of our existence. I personally am based in Singapore. I have worked in London, and the joy I get out of working with our ASEAN businesses, the entrepreneurship, the innovation, the determination probably frames my thoughts on this. So that's the context I come from. If I think about ASEAN at this time, as Honourable Minister said, this is a time of profound geopolitical transition. The settled views on the world order are in question. Tariffs are at the highest rate since the 1940s. ASEAN, in that context, provides a compelling growth opportunity. Actually, the most interesting thing, I think, has been the resilience over the last year. So if I went back a year ago almost to this date, we did an analysis of what we expected the vulnerability would be to the potential of tariffs. And actually, as we all know, the ASEAN economies have been considerably more resilient than any of the scenario planning on wargaming we might have done at the time. We look out at the prospect of ASEAN being the fourth largest economy in the world by 2030. We look at, as Honourable Minister said, 600 million people, but 200 million young people between the ages of 15 and 34. The entrepreneurship, the dynamism, the innovation, the opportunity that presents is, for a company like ours, I think remarkable. The place I'd like to turn attention to, if I may, and the question here is about the pace of growth. I might offer you the question of the quality of growth. Right? And the word that hasn't come into this discussion is around resilience. ASEAN, and we know this from the events even of the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, ASEAN is vulnerable in its concentration, in its geographies, in its exposure to climate risk. 73 billion of crystallized risk last year was, or losses as a result of climate events were in ASEAN last year. And so I think, as I look at one of the reasons I think ASEAN represents such a, apart from the financial and economic aspects that we've talked about, the thing that makes ASEAN such a compelling opportunity for people like us is the quality and pragmatism of the political leadership, the willingness to collaborate, the interaction with institutions like the ADB, and the two areas that I would highlight as topics for us to think about is building resilience by design as we think about growth in climate and in the development of the digital business models. We anticipate the digital economy in ASEAN will be something of the order of 560 billion by 2030. AI offers a huge opportunity to democratize technology, to deal with long-standing issues in healthcare, in agriculture, in primary education. But this needs to be done safely, it needs to be done inclusively. And so both in climate and in cyber, I think the questions around policy making, the interaction with the sources of capital, and then people like us who have the data, who can tell you exactly how risk is going to crystallize under different scenarios. Not precisely, but with enough that you understand the costs of and the ability to de-risk. I think that partnership is an integral part of thinking about ASEAN growth. And I'll leave my comments there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dulcie. Perfect timing. We have a good amount of time for questions. Otherwise, I will have questions of my own. So please, I open up the floor, but if you will, just stand up. Introduce yourself, and I think a mic will be brought to you. Yeah, please. If you could stand up as well so that the cameras can...
Hello, I'm Monchai from TNN Thailand. Thank you for having me here. First of all, we have heard the President Trump's speech yesterday, right? And we are facing uncertainties upcoming, and how can ASEAN work together to make sustainable development happen in reality, and especially the role of green finance from now on? Is it real? Is it an important tool to help ASEAN to go to develop to the sustainability? Just that.
Okay, maybe I will have the two politicians answer that, and maybe reframe it a little bit. In that, exactly, I mean, it's one of the questions that I have too. What is ASEAN going to be doing? How can it address this new global order that everyone's been talking about for the last 3 days? What does ASEAN need to do to accelerate its own regional integration? And as the question said, whether or not we have a view, or this panel has a view on the specificities of sustainability. So maybe DPM first and then Minister Miotia.
Yes, I think in a way I consider this as opportunities for ASEAN. I think that's excellent questions from Kun Monchai, because I think the speech yesterday from the President of the United States has warned us that we need to cooperate more. Because if we don't cooperate more, we may be minimalized, we may not be sustained. And don't talk about green, it will be disappear if we don't work together, in my opinion. So what we have to do, we need to use technologies, digital technologies, and use the competitiveness of ASEAN. We have diverse background, and we have huge populations, almost 700 million people. We are growing together. We have to work together, set the foundation, working together. And ASEAN, to me, maybe it's lucky that we are far away from US and Europe, so not calling attention much, in my opinion. So we can work together closer, and we can use ASEAN as a hub for investment, for trade, and I'm sure that there's a number of countries want to trade with us if we work together. They're willing to come to each country individually. Thailand, for example, I'm the chairman of the Board of Investment. BOI incentive applications last year increased by 93%. I think it's similar to other countries on the table. So I think that reflects something. But how we can coordinate and make sure that FDI will go into details to SME, to supply chains, not just in the country, but also in other countries. That's the first response. Also, I like to highlight the idea of building resiliencies. I totally agree with you that we need to build more resilient, not only from climate risk, but also from geopolitics and geoeconomics. Like tariff, most of us got 19% on the same pace. So I think we are comparable, but tariff among us is 0%. So ASEAN, and we also have FTA bilaterally. So Thailand may be slower than other countries like Vietnam. They already got a bilateral FTA with Europe and Singapore. We can use Singapore and Vietnam as a springboard to other countries. And similarly, you can use Thailand. We have also Thailand bilateral FTA with Australia, New Zealand, Japan, JTEPA. You can also use us as a springboard, and we can work together. That's in my opinion. So it warned us that we need to work closer, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Minister Miotia, there was several speeches yesterday, one from President Trump, and there was another speech from Prime Minister Carney as well. And he brought the term middle powers, right? I'm sure Indonesia is quite a significant middle power. It is the biggest power in ASEAN. So tell us your perspective in terms of what it can do better in addressing this new world order.
This is actually related to resiliency. So I agree on the resiliency word, and it's not how fast is the speed, but how sustainable is the speed. And in the fragmented world with geopolitics and also fragmented in technology, I think the stand of ASEAN being a neutral region, giving us more strength. Not only collaborative, but making sure that ASEAN stays neutral, because neutrality gives us access to all, new technology from all parts of the world, investments from all parts of the world, and also give the certainty that, the openness of ASEAN is always available for all parts of the world. So I think us in ASEAN has to make sure on that principle, and I think it's agreed on all ASEAN countries to stay neutral in that aspect. So I think that's the very important key as well.
I forgot to answer his question on clean finance.
Okay, quick one.
I think it's still important because clean finance will be important for green economies, which is still important. Just to answer your questions that I forgot. Okay, sorry.
Thank you very much. We've actually run out of time. So maybe just 30 seconds for Masato-san and Darren, please.
Yeah, thank you very much raising the most important issue of the resilience. The resilience are maybe two aspects. One is rather narrowly defined the resilience against the climate shock, and it is really relevant to your question of the green financing. Of course, there is a huge risk that the ASEAN is even more exposed to the frequent and more violent extreme weather, including the typhoons, cyclones, and extreme heats. And we are very much conscious about of course, the preparedness and prevention and the response. But the most important thing we are now trying to do is the incorporation of the resilience into every investment. So, for instance, for procurement from the January 1st, we are introducing the new procurement policy of the 50% for quality. So price is just 50% for the internationally advised projects, and this is very much fundamental. And more importantly, the broadly defined resilience, including of course, the cyber shock or the cyber accident. And you mentioned the geopolitical tensions. So
Masato-san, I'm so sorry. I have.
Oh, okay. Just
yeah, quick one so I can give Darren the final.
So critical mineral supply chain. This is really the shared objective to have a more sustainable and fair supply chain.
Thank you very much, Darren. Quick one.
The plans you're working on ASEAN, the 2030 and the 2046 plans, includes a heavy element of the green economy and the orange economy. That's come out from all the member states, ASEAN sector. Many of us are islands. Singapore is an island. Indonesia is 17,000. Very big ones, but some very small ones as well. And of course, across the whole ASEAN region, we encounter this. So I think there is a focus on that. Now, and that's important because without technology, you're not going to solve climate change. Without innovation, innovative solution, you're not going to solve and address climate change. So we're working on that. But I think it's exciting. And that, again, shows ASEAN very forward-looking agenda. Because, again, it's not very often that we work with a regional platform, right, on these agenda items.
Panelists, thank you so much. I wish we really had more time to get into it. If I may just recap in one sentence, I think clearly ASEAN has challenges, recognizes those challenges, but I think sometimes we give ourselves too much of a hard time as well in terms of what we've achieved. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.